Yes, aside from the increased control and flexibility that we have in self-managed superannuation funds, there are some significant estate planning advantages, and that can be a real driver for people to get into their own superannuation fund. But first, let's touch on the family law issues, because it is really important, because we're working with a small fund that only has between 1 and 4 members, and usually they're family members. So when it comes to family law, there's some particular implications, I guess, within this kind of superannuation environment if there's a family breakdown. If there is a divorce or separation, because the members need to act as trustees and they need to act together to make things happen within the superannuation fund, to make investment decisions and to pay out benefits, we can have a real problem where there's some adversity going on in that particular fund. So it's really important that if things are going down that path, that we look to make changes to that fund as soon as possible and potentially separate out the fund members' assets to 2 different funds. And we actually have some quite good taxation legislation that gives us some capital gains tax relief and things like that to enable us to do that within the self-managed environment that we don't have in other kinds of funds. So if we know about it, we can act quickly, and we can actually help people to, take care of business in that sense. On the estate planning side, again, we have a lot of flexibility, and this helps where we have blended families in particular, because we have lots of control over the decision around what happens to benefits if something happens to one of the fund members. We can really make sure that the right person gets the right money at the right time. Now, within other kinds of super funds, like a retail or industry superannuation fund, we're at the mercy of an unrelated trustee who doesn't know us, doesn't know our family, who's making the decisions around what might happen to a death benefit or whether a disability benefit is paid out, for example. And the only control we can exercise there is a nomination of beneficiary form, which has lots of rules and regulations around that, and quite often can be invalid if it hasn't been dealt with properly. In a self-managed superannuation fund, we have lots of ways to maintain that control. So we're not limited by just a nomination of beneficiary form. We can actually build into the structure of the fund, into the trust deed, how we want benefits to be dealt with if something happens. So we can ensure that, for example, a dependent spouse or dependent child receives a pension if something happens to their parent or to their spouse. So we can continue on with an income stream which can make things very simple for someone in times of distress, to be able to have that income stream to continue to live on. And we can build that in and not wait for a decision by someone else. We can ensure that we have appropriate insurances in place, and we can have income protection insurance in there, disability insurance, life insurance as well, to ensure there's enough money that comes through the fund that we can divvy out those benefits to the right dependents, or in fact through to the estate. Now, normally superannuation wouldn't form part of the estate, but we could ensure through our planning in a self-managed superannuation fund that the benefits did fall into the legal personal representative of the estate and would be dealt with in terms of the will. So that's really important. Where we've got a blended family, we might have stepchildren or a previous family, and we want to ensure that we take care of everyone. The ability to ensure that the money gets to that person who's looking after our estate assets, who can put it into a testamentary trust or direct it to the right dependent, is really important, and you just can't get that guarantee in other types of superannuation funds. It can also enable us to do some interesting things. Like I said, with a testamentary trust, we could use insurance to fund a capital amount to take care of our children if we weren't here. We could also use the benefit of the asset protection that superannuation has to keep certain assets in the fund and in fact pass them to the next generation. So where we have business assets, just because we pass away doesn't mean that all of the assets of the fund need to be sold down and the assets paid out. We can deal with things differently, and we can use insurances, and we can keep assets like commercial property, our business property, in the fund. And that means not dealing with stamp duty and CGT or breaking leases and things like that. We can maintain some stability for family businesses. So there's lots of unique options that we have in a self-managed superannuation fund that we just can't get in any other environment.